Is that comfortable for you, that height and
Yeah.
everything? You're good to go? So the whole
Should
time.
I lower it?
Yeah. Oh, that's going to sound so good for people.
I get very fidgety.
I know. And so does everyone. And so that's the hard part. It's like, that's part of why I was like, oh, I have to get a mic stand.
I get so fidgety. Just in life, I get super fidgety.
Same girl. Same. It's probably all the caffeine we ingest.
Maybe. Right now, that's
good.
probably the main thing. Is just two shots straight
Straight to the brain.
Straight to the brain.
Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
Shut up, Tara. Okay, here we go. Can't do this with your friends. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, the podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky ones that got out and all the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I am actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I currently work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me that you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, Tara Robinson. Tara is an actor and producer originally from Fort Worth, Texas. She has way too many projects to mention, but you may have first seen her in the feature film The Witch Files. You may have also caught her on Criminal Minds if you watched that recently, or NCIS LA. Good job, Kate. I'm really good at this intro. But in the future, if you tune into Station 19, you might see her cut her arm while holding her baby and bleeding profusely. I better know Tara from working together at a comedy club in Hollywood. Tara, please tell us about you and definitely include your origin story to Hollywood because I want to know how you did it when you were just a little baby, when you moved out here, and I want to know everything about that. Guys, welcome Tara.
Hi. Want to know about my little baby self?
Tiny Tara.
A tiny Tara. Okay, origin story.
Yeah. So what got you out here?
It needs to be more exciting. What got me out here? So I have family on both sides, on my mom and dad's side, that have lived in LA for years and were in the industry. And I came out here when I was 16 to be in a video that my cousin Kevin directed with Allison Stoner. It was whenever the first big writer's strike happened. Oh, wow. And everyone was super frustrated. And so the two of them kind of got together and created this like super silly, fun, cheesy, like learn how to do these dance move things. And they asked me to come out and do like a little bit in it, which was super fun. And I immediately wanted to move out to LA that summer. I'd had a really shitty last year in Texas. My mom and I both had really rough times and weren't having, too much fun with everything. And just decided that I think that was the last half of my junior year that I came out to LA to do that video. And then up until that point, I was like, no, I'm going to New York. I'm going to go be on Broadway and I'm going to do theater. And then I came out here and did that. And I was like, oh, never mind. I want to go to Los Angeles. I was like, I like this more. And then we were moved out here that summer. So I moved out here when I was 17. And then I finished I had like a couple of credits shy of graduating. So I just took those at like a charter school and then did that. And then I started going to acting classes with people that were much older than me, which I think benefited me in the long run. It was still very scary.
I bet.
Because I did musical theater and stuff growing up. And so it's all like kids stuff. So it's acting, but it's not like real. And I don't want to say it's not real acting, but it's not like the hard hitting, deep diving, scene study, character driven stuff that you do when you get out here. And so I came out and, was 17, 18 in a class full of people in their 20s and 30s, like learning how to do real scene work. And I cried every single class.
Oh my God.
Like it was a problem. Because I could do a comedy and then we'd sit down for the critique and sitting there and having the whole class up there, I would be like, and start crying. Because I did not know how to be emotionally available at that time. And it was very scary.
What? As an actor, you need to be that way? That's so
crazy.
Weird. It's weird.
It's like that's the only part of the job. And I had a big problem with it. I think I'm getting nervous. I just got hot all of a sudden. I got a hot flash.
She's taking off her jacket.
Ow.
Okay, so you're in these acting classes. Now, are you like out here with that sole purpose? So you and your mom move out here and they're like, well, you guys are like, we're acting or you're acting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
So then, were you signed with a manager, agent, anybody at the time?
Nope.
So wow, good for you.
Well, I didn't get any real auditions for because I was just in those acting classes for the first 2 years probably, where that's literally all I did, where, you have 2 classes a week. And on average in the 2.5 years that I was with that teacher, I probably ended up doing about a scene a class on average. So I like busted my ass for that 2.5 years because that's really all I had going, and I needed that training because I didn't have that. I didn't have any foundation. I didn't have any technique of any kind. That wasn't, again, from like, musical theater kids days. So I think I needed that kind of push and that technique and that drive to do that. And then I for a second, got a really shady manager through LA Casting.
Of course. Oh.
And then when I first moved, there was something when I first moved out to LA where it was another shady thing where this agency wanted to sign you, but you had to go through this headshot company thing. And my mom, we didn't know any better. We should have just asked my family, and they would have been like, no, don't do that.
I'm interjecting here really quickly because for people who are not actors and don't live in LA or New York, or even now, I guess Chicago, Miami, whatever, don't jump up my ass. But for people that are not
you're wrong
aggressively in the industry, what happens is LA Casting is an online portal where you can submit yourself. But the problem with LA Casting is that there's a lot of free projects, and it's fine. Like, it's legitimate now, and I don't want to like shit all over because someone from there could be listening. But
it didn't used to be though. That anybody that works there now can say it did not used to be as legit as it is now. It used to be real shady.
Yeah. Who cares about keeping it PG? Like porn and stuff was on there and under the guise of, oh no, this is a real audition. Like my very first real audition, quote unquote, in Los Angeles when I lived here ended up being a porn. And I was like, oh my God. And thank God my roommate at the time was a working actor because he was like, hell no, I'm going with you.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. But okay. So so that's the thing about LA Casting. But also what is on LA Casting is like, oh, I'm a photographer and I want to like up my portfolio. So like, I'm going to shoot your headshots for free, but like you got to come to my weird apartment in the middle of the valley. And like, and when you're young, I mean, or really green in the industry, you're like, oh, sweet.
Well, and luckily luckily with this, it wasn't that shady. Like this guy was a legitimate photographer and he had a whole thing, and it was just the agency was in the same building. So it was literally like, hey, I'm going to sign this person and then they're going to pay you $700. So we're helping each other get money essentially. And
so this is the same thing as like, okay, this for non-entertainment people, this would be the same thing if your dentist was in the same building as an orthodontist who specialized in braces, say.
Yeah.
And it's like, weirdly, this dentist will totally take care of you. And oh my gosh, your teeth look amazing, but you definitely need braces. And I have this person.
Yeah.
And you can just walk
down
the hall.
And they're the only person for the job. Don't do your own research and find someone else because this is the only person you can use.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Yeah. So the first time I legitimately had an agent, it was my aunt. So my aunt, Kate farted.
I did not. I'm trying to move the microphone because like, this is what happens when you make a podcast on your own. That like every sound is audible. I'm like moving the mic stand. I get a mic stand to address one issue. I get up and I'm like, Tara, keep talking. Cover up my air. I'm
trying so hard to talk normally as she's creeping over to move the mic stand.
And I move the mic stand and then I go to sit back down and the chair is really loud.
And that's what farted.
I did. That's what everybody just heard. Ooh, I'm single. Go ahead. Okay.
So when I was about 20, my aunt started an agency.
Amazing.
So I was very, very fucking lucky.
Yes.
Because I was extremely spoiled and I was with her for about 6 years before she and her partner decided to dissolve the agency, and she moved back to Kansas, which made me very sad.
Yeah.
Because they got me a lot of really good opportunities that I technically should not have gotten with nothing on my resume. Like the first real big audition that I ever went on was for Neighbors, the movie with Zac Efron and Seth Rogen. And it was for the character that ended up completely changing, but it was for what would have been Zac Efron's girlfriend. And again, they asked for like a Rebel Wilson, Melissa McCarthy-esque type. And I walk in being an average sized person and I'm the smallest girl there.
Yeah.
And which is whatever. Fine, I get it. But so that was honestly to this day one of the best auditions, if not the best audition I have ever had in my life.
Really?
It was fantastic. We did like the scene was super fun. She was a super crude, fun, just like said whatever was on her mind type character. And it was so like it would have been, if they had kept it as it would have been a breakout role like Pitch Perfect was for Rebel Wilson, or like Bridesmaids was for Melissa McCarthy, like that type of character.
Sure.
And like you had to improv during the audition, which I was super scared about, but ended up being fine because I just let myself, like it was one of those things where I was sitting outside of the audition room and I was like, what do you, just fucking do it. Shut up. Just do it. And so I did it. And then I went to the callback, and that's when I knew something kinky was up, because every other girl that was there for a callback for the same role looked like a model. And I was like, oh, cool. So I'm assuming you guys don't really know what you want, because why the fuck am I here? And then I think I've told you, so it was a whole thing where it's like they had me stay because they printed out, it was a great, again, very spoiled for my first real audition experience. And then got to like sit in there with like the casting director and the producer and the director. And they kind of asked me a little bit about myself. And then I ended up being pinned for it.
So for non-industry people, that means what? Please explain that.
Essentially, it means that they want you to block out the dates of filming, and it's essentially between you and a handful of other people, like
less than 5
other people, and they kind of have a roster of who they prefer. So it's like, if you're number 1 on the list, if you can't do it, then they go to number two. But they keep everyone blocked out so that they're not scrambling last minute to find someone.
So they protect themselves. So as an actor, if you get pinned, you're like, oh my God. And you try not to let your hope get ahead of you. Because you're like, okay, but it still doesn't mean I booked. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But of course, your brain is thinking, oh yeah, baby.
You're immediately thinking of every possibility that could happen ever.
Yeah.
And of course, so what ended up happening is that I didn't get it. They ended up cutting down the role to the smallest it could possibly be, casting a super hot girl. They made her a super stereotypical sorority type, and then made the role as small as possible, which was fine by me, because it's one of those things where I didn't see a clone of myself on screen. That's when it sucks.
Oh, it's worse. It's so much worse.
It's so much worse when you're like, fuck, they were just better than I was. I can't think of another reason
that they would have booked and I didn't.
Yeah. And then this one is literally like, oh, well, no, I can't play the stereotypical sorority girl. That girl can. Like, if you're going to pair me, I'm not hideous.
No,
but like
at all. Tara's very pretty, but she's normal size.
But I'm just a normal fucking person. But in the movie world and the type of character that Zac Efron was playing, if you're gonna pair me with him in that type of movie, you need an explanation. You can't just throw me in there and not explain like, but what? Excuse me, this doesn't make sense. So that was fine, but. Again, it's one of those things, I'm rambling on about it, but that was something where it kind of set me up for, and it didn't set me up for failure, but again, I was just very, very spoiled that was one of the first things out of the gate, and that happened. And then, but then I was with her for about 6 years, and then I was with my old manager for about 2 years, and then they both in the same year decided to dissolve their companies.
Ugh. That doesn't feel good.
Which sucked butt.
That's not fun. And for non-industry, that's not what this podcast is, but I don't want people to be confused.
No, yeah.
When like an agent or manager dissolves their company, that means you no longer have representation, and you hope that they then have a friendly relationship with another agency or another management company where they can just be like, hey, they're going to absorb my client roster. But that doesn't often happen. And also, like, that company didn't pick you, you're being absorbed. And so you're not top of the heap. Like, you just kind of go to the bottom, and eventually they drop you, usually.
Which is kind of the struggle I'm having. I was able to sign with new reps this year, but it's the same struggle that I'm having. Again, I was in I had a very special experience and a special relationship. Well, obviously, my aunt was my agent. So
yeah, that's family.
That's family.
Very different.
And then my manager was a woman who was the mother of a girl I did The Witch Files with, the feature film where he shot in Maine on location for a month. And she was out there. So I literally spent a month with her on set before really finding out that she was a manager and talking with her when we got back. So that was another thing where it was like a very familial relationship. And then so to go from that to like something that's more sterile, there's part of me that's like, well, wait,
why?
no, but...
Yeah. But this isn't how this goes.
You don't want me to text you after every audition and tell you how it went? Like, there's that, like...
Oh gosh, that'll ruin you.
What do you mean? You don't care? Do you not care about it?
I got a haircut. Do you not want to hear about it?
I think I might get my hair colored. Do you want to talk to me about it?
And they're like, no, we actually don't.
Like, we don't give a shit. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
my manager just sent me a thing the other day. I don't know if I told you this, where it was for like a little bit part in like a modified low budget thing, which is
great.
Again,
it's work.
Great. I'll fucking take it. That's fine. But they asked I was like looking through it again. And first of all, the breakdown said 34 to 37. And I was like,
Tara looks maybe 25. Like maybe.
Maybe you're just looking for options. That's fine. That happen. But there's always that part of you that's like, excuse me, I do not yet. But I looked through it and it said they're looking for New York local hires only.
Do you have yourself listed as a local hire? Oh, that's weird.
And so I reached, and they're my managers, which I'm like,
They
you're supposed to be a
should
little
know
more
that.
hands-on. And I was like, hey,
I don't live in New York.
I don't live in New York. And I was like, this looks like it's going to be a 3-day shoot max. I'm not flying. I'm not booking my own ticket to New York and paying for a hotel.
So
for
that's
3 days. Like I would make negative money. And I feel grateful enough that right now I have a handful of like decent enough things on my resume that I don't need that. I don't need to lose money for this bit. If it was the lead, sure. Hands down, I would do it. I would figure it out. But this is a 2-day shoot with someone where you've asked the person to be heavier. Like on the breakdown, you've asked for a heavier set person. And then in the script, there's a scene where they're going back and forth, shoving a donut in their face. And I was like, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Because then it's poking fun and it's like,
exactly.
That's not,
if there's a purpose for it and you don't, I just want it to not be commented on because there would be no problem. But the second, and it's so frustrating, the second you add something like that in, it changes the perspective of the character completely.
Well, sure.
Because like, why do they need to be shoving a donut down their face right then?
Yeah, and their intention becomes totally different.
Yeah.
Their motivation is different. Everything is different, and that's tough.
Anyways.
So that's okay.
Shut me up anytime.
No, I'm not going to shut you up, but we are going to pause for a break. Thanks, Tara.
I'm sorry that I kept on talking.
No, I wanted you to.
I know, but I tend to go on rants.
That's why you're a guest for a reason. Well, we're back, guys.
Yay.
And so that was your appetizers. I hope you enjoyed your nachos and your mozzarella sticks. Getting to know our guest,
love
Tara.
mozzarella sticks.
I know you do. That's why I said it. So let's eat. It's time for the entrees.
Nom, 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 nom. Does that sound nice to people?
If you could just keep doing that, that would be amazing. All right. So it is now time for the super speed round of questions.
Okay.
So Tara.
Yeah.
What was your first job ever?
Ooh. When I was 16 and was old enough to get a job, I worked the food and like concession stand at Casa Mañana, the theater that I did a bunch of shows at.
Oh, that's fun.
On days that I wasn't working.
Okay, that's fun.
In the
show. How many customer service jobs have you had?
Actually not that many. In Texas, it was just Casa Mañana working the concessions. And then in LA, I was at Starbucks for 7 years. I was at the counter for 5 years. And then I'm at the comedy club now and I've been there for 4 years.
Okay.
So I've stayed where I've been for a while.
Okay.
So it feels like it's been a lot more than it actually has.
So you like sort of wife up to the job. You're like,
I do.
I'm married to this job.
I do have a tendency to do that.
That's okay. What was your favorite job ever? Besides acting. Acting's off the table.
Yeah. I mean, out of all of those, the comedy club for sure.
Really?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay. I have some thoughts. What was your least questions? Least favorite?
Ooh, it's a toss-up. If we're strictly customer service stuff, it's a toss-up between, I mean, that's only other two options. It's a toss-up between the only other jobs that I've had is the Starbucks or the counter for different reasons. I think overall, the no, the counter.
Okay,
why?
Because
at Starbucks, I could get free food.
The counter, you got nothing
coffee.
free.
No, we didn't. We used to get 50% off meals, and then they decided to give us 25% off meals.
That's great. How generous and benevolent for them to.
What sucks though is that the food was so good that you
wanted to eat.
That you would spend the majority of the money you made the shift.
Oh, really?
Or not? Maybe not the majority. That's stretching it a little bit. But yeah. But I remember working at the counter. If you walked away with $100, it was a good shift.
And okay, so anywhere else in the country, minus maybe New York, that would be a really livable income if you're making $100 a shift, working like 4 shifts a week. Like that's not an insanely low amount of money. Mm-hmm. But out here,
it's impossible.
It's impossible. Even if you're working 6 shifts a week, if you're only making $100 a shift, you can't. That's. I mean, it's going to be 3 weeks before you have rent.
Yeah,
and then that's it.
And that was when the thing is at the counter, I worked pretty much every position front of house that you could. So I started off there as a host, worked my way up to doing like takeout restaurant. They called it RA, like restaurant assistant, where you pretty much just ran around, whatever they try to make it sound fancy. And then you had the floor servers, and then you had the counter server. And the counter servers usually made a little bit more money because there were only 2 per day. So you had a longer shift, and you got tip outs from the bar because you were the one who poured the wine and the beer for people, or made milkshakes. So you got tip outs from that, from the other servers. But it would get hectic. But I also worked Expo, which
God bless anybody
if you've
in
never
Expo.
worked at the counter, the thing with the counter is that it's a build your own burger restaurant. So literally every ticket was different.
Oh my God.
And that was that to me was the first thing of really kind of bridging, because it happens where we work now too, where there's kind of like an us versus them mentality with the wait staff and then the door guys. And there right now, I especially feel kind of in the middle, in between, and understanding both sides. And that's 100% how I felt at the counter when I was working there.
Was just that you felt in between?
Yeah, I felt in between, because working Expo, you're having to be the communication with the kitchen and the servers, because you see both sides. There's someone who's like, I rang that in 5 minutes ago, and it's like, bitch, it says right here on the ticket, it's been a minute. Calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
It's not their fault that your customer is being an asshole.
See, and that's sort of where it stems from. We'll get into that. But like, if a customer is running you ragged, like you know, everybody.
It affects everything.
It affects everybody. It affects everybody, every position, because everybody becomes frustrated.
Yeah.
Because then you're trying to compensate for their needs. Okay, hold on. We're going to keep going with questions, and then we're going to come back to that.
Yes.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever been asked whilst on the clock?
Oh no, what is it? Well, I mean, when it comes to, I've never really been asked anything too weird, but there's been like frustrating instances. So like,
Please elaborate.
so like at Starbucks, because things are
Custom
again
and
very,
hot.
you can change things however you want. The amount of times that you would talk to someone and be like, okay, I want this drink, and they would make it sound super complicated, and then I'd be like, okay, cool, so it's going to be this, this, and this, because that's what's going to show up on your receipt. I want to make sure we're both on the same page. And they go, no, I want a mocha frappuccino with this. I want a coffee frappuccino with chocolate and with caramel drizzle and with this. And it's like, okay, so it's on your thing, it's going to say they're going to call out a mocha frappuccino. No, I don't want a mocha frappuccino. Like that. When it comes to weird, it's just like, listen to the words. Listen to the logic coming out of my face right now.
Oh my God.
Or at the burger restaurant where people would be like, I want it medium, but I don't want any pink. And be like, okay, well, that's well done. But I don't want it burned. Didn't say burned. I said, well done. And it's not weird, but in that kind of frustrating, like, are you listen,
I'm saying things and you're not listening.
Yeah.
That's very annoying. Okay. What incidents like with you have made the customer ask to speak to the manager, or were there ever any?
There's been a couple of times at the store where just because it's a 2-drink minimum, that's always a thing where people are like, I got it. We got 2 drinks. And it's like, well, no, it's per person. It doesn't say that. Okay, well, logically, logically, why would there be a minimum per table? How would they make any money?
Yeah. If there's 50 of you.
That literally makes 0 sense. And so that person, they called over Jody and they're like, blah, 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 whatever. And then they like wrote a Yelp review about it.
Oh, I've been Yelp reviewed too.
And it was just like, and they literally took a picture and then went through and did like a circle thing. And my favorite thing about it was the manager, they told me, they're like, well, we're Gold Star Yelpers, and he's blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, okay. Great.
The thing is like Yelp used to carry, like I worked somewhere where a Yelp review would get you pulled off the floor. Like
that's what the counter was like.
Yeah. Like if you, and I wish people understood that it's less so now. Maybe it's just because of where we work now, but also like, I think that the era of like internet reviews being the thing that can take you down as an employee is sort of coming to a close. We're coming after people for other things now, which is actually good. So people are distracted with real issues. But I mean, most corporate chains, folks, you should know this when you're writing a Yelp review. And like, listen, I've written Yelp reviews that have not been positive when but I have to have had, like, short of the person putting hands on me, which almost happened in Vegas. Like, I won't write anything negative because I know how hard it is for you. And okay, so in the Yelp review, did you read it? Did you find it? What did they say? What did they say?
They didn't. I don't think they actually mentioned me by name.
Oh, see, I've been named
but
out.
But it was just saying like the server wasn't clear to us. It's not clear on the door, and they literally took a picture of when you walk into the first room and out front it says two drink minimum, and then circled it on their picture and was like, this, it's not clear and blah, blah, blah. It's just stuff like, oh, and then at the counter, I did get a bad Yelp review from a horrible man because he got some food for takeout. I guess it was wrong or something. He came back and like I said something to him as a joke, or not a joke, but just like a lighthearted, like, sorry, like we'll make sure we get it right this time.
That's all you said.
Thing. Yeah. Something like that. And he decided to take it as, and she said that blah, and took it as like I was being sarcastic. I don't know. However, he decided to take that moment. He took it and went crazy. But that was, again, another thing about the counter is that if you got a bad write-up or a bad Yelp review that had your name in it, immediate write-up, no questions asked.
And see, that's the thing. Like that is an imbalance of power.
Completely.
Because, and I think this is the thing, you know, I've talked to a couple guests on the show about the fact that like the tip system is flawed for this reason, because the imbalance of power is I kind of have to let you say and do a lot of things to me before I clap back, because if I don't, I can't pay my rent. Like that is such an extraordinarily imbalanced system.
Yeah.
And like, and I've also, well, we'll get into it in a second. Hold on. I'm going to see, I do this to myself all the time where I'm like, and another thing.
I could go on for hours.
Okay. So Yelp. Okay. So that got you. So the speaking to the manager, that was the first one. So it was a 2 drink minimum. Do you have any other ones where they were like, did you have any at Starbucks?
Not really, because
you were a manager
for the last few years that I worked there. I was a shift lead.
Oh, so that you would be the acting manager?
Yeah, if the store manager wasn't there, I was the one that they would talk to. And if there was ever a time that someone would complain about me, it was definitely during that time.
Because you had it.
And they could. Oh yeah. I feel so bad for my friends that were there. I was not a happy person.
Listen, working in coffee
Starbucks is where people go to die. But I would still prefer it over the counter.
Which isn't that crazy?
Says a lot.
It says,
you know why? Again, because I'll die, but I'll have free coffee.
Tara is the same person that turned me on to something that this is gonna make anyone who's listening that goes to Starbucks and asks for this, like now she and I go to various Starbucks before work and like she'll get them or I'll get them and we'll ask people like, hey, do you know what an undertow is? And like, Tara, what's in an undertow?
Okay, so what an undertow is, if we're gonna use Starbucks lingo, it's in a short cup. And they're supposed to, people make it differently. This is not how it is done. I will tell you, this is how I was taught how to make it. It is 1 pump of vanilla, and then you put about an inch of half and half, and then you put 2 shots of espresso. You put a spoon in ice, and then you pour 2 shots of espresso over the cold spoon on top of the half and half. And so the purpose is that so that it cools off the espresso and kind of layers it on top of the cream, and then you just shoot it back. So you get the espresso and then you get the cream and the vanilla, and it's very nice.
I mean, they're so addicting. Like, damn, Tara has gotten me addicted to these because she was like,
"You're welcome."
Yeah, no, shame on you. And so now we do them all the time now. But then, like, as soon as you shoot them, you're like jazzed and ready to go.
Yeah.
But the thing with, so we would order those. And like both having been baristas, knowing that it's so annoying when someone comes in and is like, can I get this weird drink?
Yeah.
And why did I bring this up? I brought this up for a purpose. I don't know. We get undertows. There was some reason I brought this up.
But can I say about saying a weird drink?
Yeah.
If you know what's in it, no problem. The main issue, because both of us, if someone is like, I don't know what an undertow is, I can tell you exactly how to do it.
You literally just explained
exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
But people would come up being like, can I get this frappuccino? And be like, well, can you tell me what's in it? We don't really have like a secret menu. It's like what people have made and posted online. And then people are like, oh, that's good. And then they come in assuming everyone knows it.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I don't know.
I want the unicorn rainbow.
Okay,
and you're like,
then,
well, then I can't help you.
I don't know. You look it up and you tell me what's in it and I'll make it.
Yeah. The issue, again, and I've said this so many times on this podcast, the issue is not that we don't want to give you the thing or do the nice thing for you or do the thing you've asked. It's when it becomes a production and you think you're the only table in the entire restaurant, or you think you're the only person in the universe, really. That's when we run into problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Back to questions.
Oh, right.
What was the last straw that got you out of the job at the counter? I like this story.
Well, so here's the thing. When my last 6 months working at the counter, I was still working at Starbucks and I had just started the job at the comedy club. So from August to December, I was working all 3 jobs. I would be at Starbucks from 4 to 9. I would be at the counter for like the day shift. So I'd be there from like 11 to 4 or 10 to 3 or whatever that was. God. And then I would be at the comedy club from like 8:15 to 2 a.m. So I was literally just taking naps. So I did that for about 6 months.
How did you survive 6 months of that?
I snapped. I didn't very well.
But 6 months, I would have been able to last 6 weeks, maybe.
It was hard, like, because I'd already started going through like one of those kind of depressed, like I was at my tail end with Starbucks because of all bullshit of that, corporation bullshit. And then at the counter, I was also at my wit's end because the problem with the guys so the counters are franchises. And so the guys who owned the counter that I worked at also owned a second one. They have never worked in a restaurant before in their lives. They've never owned a restaurant before in their lives. They're also very passive aggressive and don't like to confront people. So it was a string of just passive aggressiveness and not really saying what an issue is. Like, I definitely didn't have the best attitude whenever I walked in there because I was fucking tired.
You'd had it.
And also I was sick of them having me be expo because they quote unquote couldn't find anyone that could do it as fast as I could. And I was like, it's not
rocket science.
It bothers me so much because it's like, I know I have a tendency to want to be good at my job and I work really hard to be good at whatever job I have, but also I'm not fucking Superwoman. It's reading what's on a ticket. Yeah. And making sure it's on the burger. That it's not that difficult.
I mean, literally a child could do it.
Yeah. Like, why are you talking to me like I'm this amazing? They're like, oh, but you're just so good at it. I'm like,
it's condescending. Yeah, it's condescending.
Yeah.
And that's because you probably were good at it, to be fair.
No, but
most people would phone it in because they're like, it's expo. Who cares?
Exactly. So they wouldn't. So what ended up happening that was my tail end at the counter was that nothing specific like crazy happened, but I just definitely wasn't in a great mood, which I will say that's 100% on me. But again, they don't talk to you about it. They have discussions amongst themselves and then something happens and they snap when you have zero idea what's coming. So I guess something happened and they had decided without saying anything to me that they were done with me being tired or being or whatever and put me on a week suspension with zero what's the word I'm looking for?
Explanation of write-ups or warnings?
Yeah, no write-ups, no warnings. No discussions, just immediate week suspension.
Which means a week of your income is now gone.
And I remember, or I think it was a week or 2 weeks, but I just remember being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And so they're like, we're going to take you off the floor when you get back from suspension. We're going to have you work expo and then slowly work your way. And then when you're feeling better, work your way back to being on the floor. As expo, that's a 3-hour shift if you're working, because I could only work the day shifts because I was working at the store at night. So that's maybe 3-4 hours, 4 hours tops, and you make maybe $10 out of tips.
No thanks.
That you get.
No
thanks. And so I came back and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I told them, I was like, by the end of the year, I was like, I'm done by the end of the year. I was way too fucking nice. I said, I will stay and I will work expo because I know until you find someone, I will train whoever you need me to find because apparently it's so difficult.
It's brain surgery.
Yeah. So I will be there and I will train whoever you need me to train and I will work until the end of the year and then I'm done.
Out.
And then I remember having a discussion with one of the girls who is a server who became a manager. I remember like crying to her in the office because she was like, I don't know. I remember we had a discussion and she's like, honestly, I'm afraid one day you're not going to show up because you have zero need to. And she's like, and I was like, well, and she's like, but I know you wouldn't do that. But yeah, she's like, but I'm afraid. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Because I was like, well, I can't. I would feel too bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing is they can exploit that.
Exactly. They exploited the shit out of me. And granted, I let it happen because I was like, no, I'm going to feel too bad because it's not all of my friends are going to be affected. All of my friends and servers that have nothing to do what's happening. This is between me and the owners they don't want to talk to me about it. To the point that my last shift, one of the owners was working. He was managing that day and it was my last shift. And he was like, hey, so I know, it's been really great having you here. We've really appreciated everything you've done for us. I know the last few months have been, and he kind of gave me, so at the beginning, he kind of gave me a hug and then he kind of started slowly backing away. And cause I was just staring at him like, and And he's just sort of they've been a little
weird guy.
and then he kind of did like
winking
this,
a gun.
Yeah, like a little gun thing, like, ooh, and then backed into his office. And I was like, yes, yeah, you bitch. I know. I know what you've done. And you know that I know.
You know, it's funny. It makes me think of this is a side note about a coworker that Tara and I both had at the comedy club where we work, who our job is incredibly hard. We turn the room twice in a night. You're dealing with just hundreds and hundreds of people. Like inevitably you're going to run into problems. So it is a very hard job. But she just decided she was done and like had it with the whole place, and decided that instead of getting her shifts covered, so we were down like 3 or 4 people at the time. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
And like she just decided she was done, got no one to cover her shift. So all of us were working like 6 shifts a week, and that is about 3 too many there. Like most of us work about 4 or 5, but like you should really only be hovering at 3 because it's a really hard job. And so it put all of us at like, some of us were going to be working like 7 days in a row or something insane. And she just didn't understand why people were frustrated. And
why is everybody being so mean?
Yeah. And it was like, because you left us high and dry. Like, and that's the thing, is like, that's the difference between how you approach work versus how a lot of people approach work, especially in the restaurant industry, the way she does, where it's like, oh, I'm out. Like, I don't want to do this anymore, without the consequence of now those shifts don't go away just because you're not choosing to work them.
Yeah. The amount of people showing up
is now less.
Change.
Now we're down 1.
It's not like they're like, sorry, we had someone quit, so we can only let in the certain amount of people. We have
200
to close
people.
this section.
Yeah. Like, no. They're still going to make their money. And it's not like the managers are getting on the floor, rolling up their sleeves.
I wouldn't want them to.
It would be a disaster.
I wouldn't want them to. That was another thing at the counter that would happen.
The managers
would go around and they would start taking your orders because they would get too antsy because someone was sitting there for 5 fucking seconds.
Oh my God.
Oh, it was so frustrating.
I would be.
It was
beyond.
so frustrating.
Yeah.
And then if the order came out wrong, I can't be like, I would rather it be my fault.
100%.
I'm that person. I would much rather, if there's something wrong with your table or something came out wrong, I would rather it be my fault than have to be like, sorry, I wasn't here when your order happened. So I have no idea.
Yeah. No thanks. And that's the other thing with like working for people who have never worked in a restaurant industry, like saying that like the owners of of that particular branch, what would you call it? Branch, franchise, that location?
Yeah.
That location. Of the counter, like, because they had never worked in the restaurant industry, like people do not understand how crucial that is to understanding anything.
Yeah.
Like, and what to tolerate and what not to tolerate, and like the low-key sexual harassment that happens, or
all
the low, like all of the chaos.
And especially at a place like the counter where everything, people are, and especially that location, it was around a lot of hoity-toity rich people. And who felt very entitled. And so it's like, I want to be able to say, like, if they say this is wrong because of this, I get to say, well, actually, we had that exact discussion where I said this was, like, where I told you that this was the case.
Like we actually talked about this. We
said it. Because I would rather it just be like, I'm someone where I would rather triple check with a person so that if something goes wrong, like I have something to go back to so that there's no assumptions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay. How many I can't talk. How many bodily fluids have been on you whilst you've been on the clock?
Oh no.
I know.
Ew.
I know. Well, we work at the same place. I know what happens. I've been barfed on.
Oh God, no, I haven't.
You haven't?
No, thank God.
I wouldn't step in it there or anything, or like walk through it.
No.
Have you seen it?
No, because I refuse. I run away. I will throw up.
I had a girl in one of the rooms. I could see it coming. I told security 3 times, and then I just happened to be walking past her table, and it was just all over the ground as I was walking by. And I was like, cool. That's on my pants. That's definitely on my pants. That I cannot believe. I've worked there way less time than you. I cannot believe you've never had that. What about
run away? If I smell it, I go opposite way. I don't go near it. I let someone else deal with it because I will throw up.
Oh my God! Like, I'm shocked. Well done, you. Because I said, well done you. Because like I hate vomit.
Yeah.
It makes me, I've got a higher tolerance now that I've been puked on so many times, but like, I can't believe you never have. Never anything.
No.
Wow. At our comedy?
Never.
Wow. Well, congrats.
At least not, maybe I've blacked it out at some point.
No, not if you puked on the floor. Yeah, you would have known.
I definitely did. I do remember it was when I first started and I was working cover booth, and I remember the tour guy having to get whatever that stuff is that like dries it up, because
there's an official name for it that I do not know.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The dry vomit stuff.
That's the official name. Good job,
the official name.
The dry vomit stuff.
And there was a girl at a table where they had all gotten tequila shots.
Oh, you're already a mess.
Gross.
You're already a mess then.
And apparently what happened was that she took the shot, like leaned her head. She like took the shot and then immediately went bleh the second she came back with it on the table. But the thing was, no one reacted.
Oh,
so
God.
it took a second because her friends didn't react. She didn't react.
She was just like, I do this. I barf.
Yeah. And that's what her friend said too. She's like, oh, that just happens sometimes.
I'm so sorry. It's just, how did,
I'm sorry. We're not friends anymore.
no. And also you've got that response chambered. That means this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this just happens sometimes.
That was, but again, I didn't see it. They came and dealt with it because I was like, nope.
So yeah, it's an interesting thing because like it is technically, I guess we've all had experiences where we drank too much. So it isn't like, we're not saying these people are bad people, but it's
No.
also like when you're a hot mess and you come into a place like that and like your friends, you have bad friends, first
Yeah.
of all. And also, second of all, you want more?
yeah.
Like you really think you know?
I don't think you should have
I don't think
anymore.
you should have any more.
The other night, I had something where there was a guy that I thought was going to throw up because they drank before they came in, and then I took their
No.
order. I took their order, and then I brought up the tray, and as I was dropping off other drinks, one of the guys stops me and he goes, "Hey, can we order?" And I said, "So I already took your order,
You've done that.
and I'm about to bring you your drinks."
That
And he
process
was
is
like,
over.
Oh, and his friend was like laughing, and I said, "Should I bring you your drink?"
No.
That happened 5 minutes ago.
Like that exchange is over. Have
Whatever.
you-
And then he was fine, but I was like, ooh.
Oh, that's very annoying.
So no vomit.
Okay. Do you tip? I already know the answer to this, but I'm asking for the audience.
Do I tip?
Yeah. When you go out.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your percentage?
I usually do 20%, depending on the server, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it also varies if I'm doing cash or card.
I hover at like 25. I'm just
Yeah.
like, it takes a lot for you to get 20 and it takes even more for you to get less than that.
Yeah.
Like-
It depends on the situation, because it's a thing where it's like I always try to tip more, but I've also become like hyper no, I'm forgetting words.
Sensitive?
Not hypersensitive, like sorry, I'm like
It's okay.
hitting the
It's okay.
microphone.
She's talking with her hands, folks. Sorry for that
Remember.
sound. Hypercritical?
Yes, thank you.
Of, like-
Hypercritical.
Because you know how hard our job is, that you're
Yeah.
like, if people fuck it up at
'Cause there are
IHOP, you're like,
yeah,
how?
there are certain things where it's just like I can understand a lot of things, but when you see someone being blatantly lazy or blatantly not doing their job
Yeah.
for it, like that's different to me.
Well, see, and I think that's why I get so over the top at our job, because like you will never see, I mean, some of the girls are able to be on their phones. I don't know how, but for most of us, you see us literally sweating.
Yeah.
I don't, and I've said to myself before, I'm like, if this person saw me on the goddamn, I don't know, on my phone or on the computer
Yeah.
or just fucking around, I would totally understand reacting. I totally would
Totally.
get it. But
We're literally nonstop moving,
Nonstop moving.
constantly have something in our hands,
always
sweating,
running around. It's
And
insane.
it's one of those things where I've told her, it's like I gain nothing in not getting you your drinks as soon as possible.
It is my only job.
That's literally my only job. That's why
it.
whenever people like wave me over as I'm walking, I'm like, nope. I say out loud, and it's I'm like, nope. I'll literally coming right to you,
Right to you.
right to you. Just gotta let me walk. I have to
gotta-
walk there. I can't appear.
I'm in route.
You see how I'm walking your direction, and I'm looking you in the eye as I'm walking over to your table.
Have you ever stiffed someone?
I don't think so.
Really? Good job, you. What would it take for someone to get stiffed?
It would take a lot, honestly.
Tell me what it would take.
What would it take? Just a lot, okay?
Tara, this is a podcast, not a show
Why
about
can't
ESP.
they just understand what's happening in my
don't-
head?
They can't read it. They can't read your brain. Keep going.
Banter.
Witty.
witty
This is a
banter.
dirty podcast.
Witty banter. What was the question?
What would cause, like, what would it actually
what would
take?
it take? Someone spilling something on me and giving zero fucks, like not trying to fix it at all. Everything coming out wrong and there being no
Explanation.
or remedy to it. Someone being super fucking rude for no reason.
Now, would it have to require all of those things at once?
Yeah.
Or, okay. All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been stiffed?
Yeah.
Oh, it's as if we work at the
Yeah.
same place together and know what that
Always.
feels like all the time.
For no reason.
Really? Do you feel like it was no reason? I often feel that way too.
The thing is, it depends. There are some nights where I could see if maybe, like, there are some nights where maybe I get like a little short, or you can tell they're already kind of in a bad mood, and because you can't be there every second that they want you to be,
Yeah.
it's fine. I can kind of understand it a little bit, But
the nature of the job is
the
that we
nature of
just
the job, yeah,
can't-
it's one of those things where it's like, I know nights that I haven't been working as hard as I usually do
100%.
and I get lazy and I'm like, okay, well, fucking, I get it. I was, if I'm especially in the belly room, if it's slower, I don't want to sit up there for, hours.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't get it because again, if it's one of those things where it's like, just because you don't see me in your face 24/7, you see me every time I come up to the room, I'm carrying a big ass tray. You see me talking to people while I'm leaving, so that's,
it's the same thing. It's like if you see me on my phone, if you see me, if I'm just screwing around with a comic or if I'm talking to my coworker and just
blatantly ignoring you when you're needing something.
Yes.
That's completely different. Yes. And especially
agreed.
if I haven't been blatantly, like everyone has their days. I definitely have days where I'm not in a good mood and I'll catch myself kind of being aggressive to people right off the bat.
Sure.
For no reason. Well, not for no reason, where it's like a little thing that I normally would let go annoys me.
Yeah, 100%. Or something that you're like, oh, I'm under most circumstances, you would be like, if I were working a normal job where I wasn't interacting with minimum 100 people tonight, I would totally have the bandwidth for this.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I mean, and I say this all the time, like it's volume, right? It's like you're going to run into people that are going to be shitty to you as their server because it's the number of people you're interacting with.
That's just what and the thing is, what I will say about again, everyone has their days, but for the most part, I think I do a pretty good job at not being like that and working hard. So it's hard when it's like, again, it's people not putting into perspective
what your
job entails.
Yeah.
I actually did a show. I worked a show at the comedy club a few weeks ago, maybe last week even.
Yeah.
And the host, I was dropping off tabs because they were doing an hour, and I was dropping off tabs and I was in the front row, and the front row, there's only so much I can do to not be seen. And I hate it so much. I hate the front sections. I would so much rather be in the back where I can just feel like I'm not, all 400 people in the room can see me.
100%.
But so I was in the front, and the guy on stage commented, he was like, oh, so everyone's getting their tabs. And I was like, fuck. I was like, because usually if they comment on it, they're going to be shitty.
Yep.
They're going to be like, well, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, we have to do our fucking jobs.
Yep.
So I was prepared for that. And he went the opposite. And I thanked him afterwards because he was like, so you guys are getting your tabs. He goes, please, please, please make sure you take care of your servers. He goes, even an extra $1 or $2. He goes, it'll mean nothing to you. He goes, but it'll mean they can pay their rent at the end of the month, which is pretty cool.
Was that Mark Ellis? Because that dude is so amazing.
No, he's fantastic. It was JF Harris.
I don't know. I don't think I know who that is.
He's really nice. I've seen him at the store a couple of times, and that was the most interaction we've had.
Yeah.
And he was just really, really, really nice. And I told him afterwards, I was like, I appreciate that so much. I was like, you don't understand that people. And he goes, no, he's like, you guys are doing your jobs.
Yeah,
Why would
I wish
you guys are working hard.
I wish people understood that.
And that's the thing. It's like, it's no one's, I say no one, I can't speak for anybody else that works there, but I know for the two of us, I appreciate comedy.
Yeah.
I love comedy. I love watching it. It would never be my intention to like
ruin the show
or take away from it. But at the end of the day, I can only make myself so small, and I have to drop these tabs off. I have to do my job.
And this is the formula as it exists at this particular location. Like this is just what we do.
And it's if you're in the small room and you're in the very front row, I'm not standing up.
Yeah.
I'm on my knees.
Crawling to the table to drop it off.
And that's all I can do.
That's it. That's our only option. Have you ever been fired from a customer service job? I mean, I guess the counter was like sort of that, but not really.
I quit. And then Starbucks, I quit before they could fire me.
Okay. Good.
My district manager wanted to fire me.
You could just tell.
And my store manager then she told me this afterwards. She goes, she's been wanting me to fire you, but I wanted to talk to you first because I wanted, and this is, I think, speaks a lot to myself as a worker. I think when it's like partly because they probably didn't want to give unemployment out, but my manager at Starbucks, she told me, she goes, but I wanted to give you the option to quit because that way you have the if you ever need to come back and work for Starbucks, you have the opportunity.
No, it's because she didn't want you to file for unemployment.
I know.
1,000%. That's what that was.
But I understand to the extent of like, because if they fired me, if there was ever a time where I wanted to come back and work for Starbucks, I wouldn't be able to. Not that I would ever want to.
Yeah. Would they have a one and done policy?
Essentially.
Jesus. That's intense.
Or I think it has to be like a certain amount of time, maybe. I don't know.
Lame.
Some corporate bullshit.
Okay. What is the worst customer you've ever interacted with?
Ooh. Well, there was that one chick who told me that I was just really ruining the vibe of the show when I was trying to do my job.
What was the context of that?
So there are these shows that we like to call bringer shows, and that boo. Sometimes they're fine. Comics, if you're doing a bringer show, you better make sure your friends are nice people, because if you bring a bunch of your shitty friends, it sucks. There are times where it's great, but the thing is, with a bringer show, essentially, in order for these comics to be on the show, they have to bring a certain number of people. So they're pressuring their friends. A lot of times they don't tell them it's a 2-drink minimum. They don't tell them all the details because they just want butts in the seat so they can do their 3 minutes.
And also, to interject with that too, the other thing is that you're making money for the producers, because the producers are who actually push you to do that. And so shows that are considered like a successful bringer show by the person producing the show is only because they get to keep 100% of the door at the location where we work. 100% of the door is kept by the producers. So all the comics and the customers that are mad at us are mad at the location where we work. Be mad at the producer that didn't clearly communicate it was a 2-drink minimum, and also is the person pocketing 100% of the door.
Wait, so how much of the door do they take away?
It's 100% of the door.
So when you don't tell them, people suck. They can suck because they're like, I just want to see my friend.
Which is nice. They've come to support their friend, and it wasn't communicated to them.
So the thing is, with this room, you're having to talk to people, and then they try to be like, no, I'm going to talk to you in a second. And you have the conversation back and forth where you're like, no, I have to do the 2 drinks now, but I don't want to, but you have to. God. Do I have to get a drink? Yes, you do. Well, can you just wait? My friend's on stage. I have to take your order now.
Because the thing that makes these customers essentially the almost the worst, not the total worst, but almost the worst, is the fact that they're not, and it's not, listen, it's customers, it's not your job to necessarily pay attention to our flow.
No.
But when you are you're also going to be the same customer that when I have to then move on to the 30 other tables that I have and take their orders in order, you're going to be throwing up your hands whilst there's a different comic on stage that's not your friend, interrupting the show, and then standing up or speaking out loud and saying, I need to order. When it was explained to you that, okay, if I skip you now, you go back into the rotation. So I will be back to you when
you are not a priority for me,
because you can't be, because everybody else who's waiting in their seats to patiently order also has to get served. Even though you can't see the 50 people around you, they all also need drinks.
And also, this 5-minute conversation that you have turned this into could have been 30 seconds, and you could be watching the rest of your friend. The problem is that I'm stubborn enough when people do that shit, when they just get where I'm just like, no, I don't give a fuck if your friend's on stage. We're going to have this conversation because because you're trying to
control how
you're trying to control how this is. It's a 2-drink minimum. I'm sorry they didn't tell you that beforehand. Get 2 fucking bottles of water.
That's it.
Or
2 sodas, which are cheaper.
Yeah. Just do whatever. So anyways, it's one of those things where it just bothers me. And so what happened with this instance was that the boyfriend was being that person. The girlfriend had already given me money for 2 bottles of water. And so the boyfriend did the whole thing. He's like, okay, so I have to get, again, we'd had this whole back and forth.
And also, can I just jump in? I'm sorry, one more time. I'm jumping in, Tara. None of the servers see even a dollar of the purchase price of that drink. We see none of that. You take it out on us as if we are the people that have created the 2-drink minimum. We are enforcing it because if we don't enforce it, we don't have a job.
Yeah.
I'm not making you get 2 drinks and arguing with you because I like to do that.
Yeah.
That's actually my least favorite. I would rather someone vomit on me again than have to go through yet another argument. Tara's looking down like she's like, fuck no.
I don't know. I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I would choose that.
I would literally choose barf on me as opposed to arguing with every other table of like, well, that wasn't clearly stated. We've already talked about this. But it's just, this is what makes you the worst. The worst is when you think that we are somehow skimming off the top and taking a piece home. No, the place where we work receives the full profit of that. If you choose to tip us, we'll see money off of that. But most of you that are arguing with us about the drinks we just forced you to get so we don't get fired, you won't tip us. And then we now had to pay you to take those drinks because part of that money that you didn't tip us on, we are now giving to the bar. for making those drinks. Thank you. I'm sorry. Keep going. I probably made you
Just
probably lose
needed
your
to
train
say
of thought.
this.
I'm so sorry.
No. I remember this, bitch. It's okay. I remember very exactly where I was. So we went on this, had the whole circle conversation with the guy. And then he ends with being like, so I have to get 2 drinks. And I said, yes. And he goes, and if I don't, you're going to kick me out. And I said, yep.
Yes.
And he goes, okay. And he stands up and walks out.
Great.
And I was like, okay, bye-bye. But again, this is what's also frustrating is that he had already seen his friend.
Yeah. So he
didn't
got what he wanted.
And I was like, fuck it, whatever. I can't control everything.
Well, and we can't argue with everybody.
No.
Because
It's
if you get us on certain shows and you come to us and you're like wanting to be combative and argumentative, you're going to get your way, which sucks because I don't want you to. I don't want you to. But also, now you've made this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you know I have to acquiesce to this.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I've now fucked myself for every other
other
customer.
person.
So I just have to let you win sometimes and
Yeah.
risk getting fired. And that's insane.
And with that, I mean, it was early enough in the show that it wasn't a big thing. But then his girlfriend, so I was just like, I forgot, I said something and she was like, you're just really ruining the vibe. And I was like, oh, I said,
vibe.
well, I'm doing my job. So, and she goes, she's like, oh yeah. She's like, well, I'll make sure to tell your manager you're doing your job. And I went, okay.
Please do. Do you want to talk to him right now?
I said, his name is Curtis. Do you want me to bring him up here? Please tell him. Maybe I'll get a little special treat.
Can you also put that on Yelp too? That like, the servers do their job. Barf.
Oh my God. And that's the thing. It has spoiled me. The comedy club has completely spoiled me
Yeah.
because you get to that filter is gone.
Yeah.
And
Because it kind of has to be.
Yeah. Because you have a thing where you have literally, if all rooms are full, you have about 700 people
700.
or maybe less than that.
No,
but
'cause
roughly.
350 plus 150 is 500 plus like roughly
So, like,
100.
so, like, 600.
people. But twice a night, that's 1,200
Yeah.
people in a night.
Yeah. So you have all those people coming in and out. You have lines of people waiting to get in. So it's that thing of like, if you're not going to do, it's not that hard of, it's not a big thing.
It's not.
Literally every comedy club in the entire world has either a 2-drink or a 2-item minimum. That is not unheard of. It's not some weird scammy thing. That's literally how they make their money.
And it's crazy to me too when people want to argue about how expensive the drinks are. They are expensive. You're in Hollywood. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But also, you're seeing comics that sell out Madison Square Garden at minimum $100 a ticket for, in some cases, $5.
Yep.
In some cases, the show is free. In other cases, it was $20.
Yeah. The most a store produced show,
Store produced, not outside producer.
not outside produced, the most a store produced show cost is $20.
And that's like, I mean, you're seeing, anyway, we're defending it. And now we've said the name of the club and whatever.
No,
It's fine.
just cut it out.
Okay, I'm going to.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I did it too. Okay, what's the best customer?
Oh, you know what? The best customer I had was Gene Simmons and his family.
I totally agree.
I remember that
with
night
him.
you were.
Yes.
Yeah. It was
He
that night
is-
that they gave you $20 just to tell me that they wanted chicken wings.
Correct. Handed me a $20 bill.
And it's not just the money. It's not just because they were pouring money out. I mean, that's always nice.
Yeah, they were lovely.
They were, but it was exactly that. They were very nice.
Yes, asked
and they
for
were
nothing. Patient.
They weren't like overly crazy with anything. You know,
Their seats were shitty at first and they needed to move and they were fine.
and they did. They were fine with it. They didn't have big heads. They weren't screaming at people waving down. They were very polite. They were fantastic.
Yep.
And they were great audience members.
Yep.
They had a great time.
That I agree with you on that
And
one.
and again, the fact that they were very nice with their money is always nice because it's what the hardest part I think about serving in LA specifically is you have a lot of very rich people or very well-known
Tons of celebrities.
Tons of celebrities.
Of obscenely wealthy people out
obscenely
here.
wealthy people that you see and then you see them not tip.
When you hand us a black card of any kind, whether it's an Amex black card, which we all know has no limit,
Yeah.
or any of the various black cards that weigh like 10 pounds now and that's their thing, and you write 0 in the tip line,
Yeah.
I literally don't know what to do.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where it's like, again, I've always said this. I would never ever expect, and it doesn't matter who someone is or how much money they have. I would never expect them to come in and tip me an exorbitant
Exorbitantly.
amount of money. That's
Yes.
not what I want. But
You can give me
But you can-
$5 on 50.
yeah, But like, you can tip me 20%.
Mm-hmm.
You can tip me 20%. So I'm walking away with 15%.
Yeah. Or you can tip me at all. Full
Or you
stop.
can tip just at all.
Just tip.
Yeah.
Just tip.
I think that's what's crazy to me. And
Yeah. And
so it's nice when people appreciate the fact that you are doing a job and that you're working hard.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm
Yes.
about to go into a whole other tangent.
I get it. Have you ever been rendered speechless by an experience at any of your jobs where you were just like, I literally have nothing to say?
Yes. It's a
Sarah's
Starbucks
smiling
story.
so big right now. Please tell.
So I was 18, 19, I think. I was 18 when I started working at Starbucks. And this is like the first couple of years that I was there. And Starbucks, you know, are known for having a lot of homeless people coming in and around. And you have some regulars and you know who to look out for, whatever. So there was this old woman who was mentally ill. Like she definitely had schizophrenia or something along those lines. But it was because she would have outbursts, which was scary.
Yeah, that
and
is scary.
she would always come in every day, at least once or twice a day, and ask for a sample of coffee. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's easier just to give it to her
Just give
and
'em. Yes.
go away than
Yes.
anything else. And at one point, there was like no one else in the store. And everyone else that was working went to the back. So I was up there by myself and she walked in and I was like, oh, no.
Oh, God.
No, what's going to happen?
Help.
So she came up and it was fine. Then she's like, can I get a sample of coffee? And I said, yeah. So as my back is turned to her and I'm pouring the coffee, she goes, you're the one who fucked my husband, aren't you? And I was like,
Oh, God.
and I froze up and I was like, what the fuck? She goes, because he's not really my husband. I don't know who told you that. And I was like, I'm like 19 at this point. I was
my
like, oh my God, what do I was like, am I going to turn around and she's going to have a knife?
A knife.
Does she
Yes.
think like, cause I immediately go to the worst possible scenario in my
course.
brain. I'm like, what if she tries to jump across the counter? What do I do? Like full on panicking. And so I just decided to just ignore her and pretend like she
That
didn't say
didn't
anything. And then turned around and went, here you go. Bye bye. Have a nice day. And walked straight to the back before anything. And then she left without saying anything else, left and then screamed at the person who was walking through the door the same time as she was.
Good.
But I
Good.
just remember that panic of like,
Help.
help. And you always have that moment of panic. Like it's the same thing when I'm like going through TSA and there's that moment where I've obviously never slept with someone's husband, but there's that part of me that's like, oh my God, did I do something that I don't remember?
100%. Are there rules I'm not following that I didn't know I'm not
It's like when you go through TSA, I'm like, what if I accidentally have a gun on me that I've
you've
never
never
had
owned a
before
gun.
in my entire life?
Just because you've been accused, you're like, oh, fuck. Did this happen?
I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't remember? Like, what is this?
I totally identify with that. And then what's the rudest thing you've ever said to a customer?
Ooh, I might have to think about that.
Okay. Think about it.
Let me see. The rudest thing I've ever said to a customer would be at the comedy club because of the sheer
Volume of insanity.
and leeway that we have there.
You don't have to totally tell on yourself if you don't want to get specific.
No, I honestly am trying to think of something. I'm sure there have been instances, but I have a tendency, like, unless it's something really major, I tend to just be like, once it's gone,
It's over.
I'm like, but I don't remember until
job,
something
you.
like triggers it. I'm like, oh, right. And then this story. But the
Probably. Have you ever told anyone to like shut up because they were being loud during the show?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Multiple times. I mean, things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
like I've been
We do those every shift.
every shift. I mean, I remember there was a group of guys and the one friend kept on like raising his hand and being like, hey, every time they needed something. And he was the one out of all of them. And I was like, hey, you got to stop. I was like, I'm going to get to you as soon as I can, but you can't keep doing what you're doing. It's disturbing everyone around you. And it's completely
Everyone around you. Everyone.
And it's completely unnecessary. And then he kind of kept on doing it. And I went to his friends and I said, look, I've already had this conversation. I said, if he yells for me one more time, you guys can't stay.
Good for you.
I was like, this is ridiculous.
There was a time that a guy in the very front row was filming Rogan and did it the first time, and I ran over to him and I was like, you can't do that and you have to delete it in front of me. And he was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yes. And so he like deletes it or whatever. I'm pretty sure I saw that. Then he thinks he's being slick and puts the phone like all the way down on his
God.
lap, and I can see him recording again.
Yeah.
And I go up to him and I was like, I'm going to have to kick you out. You are not allowed to record him. These are very strict rules. And he was like, oh my God. Rogan is on stage this entire time and in the front row. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. And I pray he didn't see me. He does it a third time. And then I just tell security, I was like, he's got to go. And so they go up to him and he was like, he goes, bitch, under his breath, and then crosses out because it was an autograph, because it was a party of, I think there were 6 of them, like all in the front row. So it was an autograph. Scratches it out and like writes the total without the autograph.
Sorry, that's not how it works, boo.
That's not how it works. And also, you were filming 3 separate times.
Yeah.
I could have kicked you out after the first one, but because I made you delete it, I didn't. And then his friends were like, I don't know, like at the end of the show, they were like, what happened with him? And I was like, he was filming a comic. And they were like, where does it say we can't do that? And I was like, well,
they tell you.
They tell you at the top of the show. If you've ever been in public before, you've probably interacted with people that were testing out their art and didn't want it recorded. And also, they tell you.
This isn't a fucking concert.
This isn't a concert. And also, like, they tell you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Were you here? Because they told
It also says it outside on the building.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the first row. You were for sure sitting down when you had the announcement.
Correct. You were
Fuckers.
seated when it happened.
I love when people pretend like they can't hear shit.
What?
There was a time, I think I told you about this, or I will say the rudest I've been to a customer, honestly, was probably not even serving. It was when I was working cover booth and people would come up and bother me when they were on the wait list.
That's what I was remembering.
That would happen. I see, again, we just have to talk more. And then I'm like, oh, right, this story. Because again, the most frustrating thing when I worked cover booth is that when you get sold out, you have a thing, people don't understand why they have to wait or it's whatever. It's like, look, I have this amount of people sold already, these seats. I have to save these seats until a certain time. I will call your name if we're able to get you in. If we don't call your name by this time, come and check in with me. That's what I would always tell them.
Sure.
And so there was this group of guys one time, or it was one guy out of like this thruple
of humans.
That kept on, like, literally every 5 minutes, kept on coming up and checking.
Come on.
And this happened,
being like, are there seats? Are there seats?
Yeah,
Can we see?
This happened 2 different times. The first time it happened was this one really annoying kid who I told you Curtis had to like throw down a few days after out. Because he was showing up like every night for weeks on end.
It's too much.
And being crazy. And when he was doing it, I said, look, I'm going to call your name when we get seats. I said, but if you come up here one more time before 9:45, you're not getting in.
Good job, you.
I was like, this is fucking annoying.
Good job. So that's the rudest thing Tara said to someone, but also facts.
And then,
big facts.
And then the other time was the thruple guy that was doing the same thing. He kept on coming up. And I was like, dude, and I told him, I was like, I don't gain anything by not letting you in the room.
Yeah, I don't know why you guys think we have the master keys to some experience we're keeping you from.
Like we gain nothing.
Yeah, no one's blowing you in your seat. Like, we are not keeping you from the most transcendent night of your life. Like,
no.
There's just no space.
There's literally no space. And I remember they were being like, well, you can't. They were like, you can't get us in. And I said, no. And I said, they're like, not even if we're really nice. And I was like, well, you should be nice anyways.
Good job, you.
No.
And no. A double no.
And no.
Now,
and
actually.
They're like, well, what if we like give you some money? And I said, no. Because that's the problem. Again, I'm very stubborn.
Yeah.
I am very stubborn, which I'm learning more and more as the longer I've been at this job. Because I used to try to be like, no, I'm not stubborn. And then things have happened. I'm like, oh no.
I'm incredibly stubborn.
I'm very stubborn.
Yeah. Well, you and I are both stubborn and we're both about the principle. And when you're about the principle, it's a hard place to work because you want the justice.
It's justice. And so they were like, and it depends on the bribe. If someone actually puts down $100, that's different than them just talking to you about it.
Yeah, and being like, I'm pretty.
So that's what happened with this guy, is that they were like, oh, well, what if we give you some money? I was like, no, I'm not
doing it.
You can't come in. There's literally no space. And he was like, so you're telling me if I put money down, you wouldn't let me in? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you're saying if I put $500 in front of you, you couldn't let me in? And I said, if you put $500 in front of me,
I'll figure something out.
We'll have a conversation. I said, but you just saying $500 doesn't change anything.
Just saying numbers isn't really.
You're saying, but yeah, what if I gave you $1,000? Sure.
Yes.
You got it.
The answer's a resounding yes. Where is it?
Give me.
Show me now.
So that's, yeah.
Oh man. Well, guys, now we're on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. Tara, what was the nicest thing a customer has done for you while you were working?
Oh,
that's sad that it's You can't just think of it.
I know, I really
sad.
can't.
That makes me sad. That means it doesn't
when I worked
happen.
at Starbucks, there was a couple that there were, regulars that would come in. They would be there every day. And I feel so bad that I don't remember their names. I think once I left that place, I blocked so much out because it was crappy. But like there would be customers that would come in and like, during Christmas, they would bring us gifts.
Aww.
Or, even if it was just like a candy basket or something like that, that was always
so sweet.
That was always really appreciated.
Do that for places, or for the people that work in customer service that you're a regular of. When I bartended, people used to do that for me.
It's really nice. And it's a small gesture that means a lot and goes a long way.
Yeah. They used to give me like holiday cards with $20 in them. And it's like, that might be nothing to them, but it meant so much. And
it means a lot.
Yeah. And you also will remember that and give them great service. Not that you wouldn't before.
That, and then at work when you have your hands full, and sounds so stupid, but it really does mean a lot. Like when you can't reach people and there's people that realize it and like will help either grab
the drinks
and set it down or pass it down. And I'm like, thank you.
Thank you for seeing that I am human.
Because my favorite's whenever you're like that and people just stare at you and you're like, can you see how I can't go anywhere?
Yeah. Or they're trying to order from you and you have 50 drinks in front of you.
Yeah.
What's the best lesson you've learned in customer service?
Ooh, patience.
Oh, that's true.
And to get over myself.
That's interesting. What do you mean?
In terms of like, there's part of me that goes in where it's like, well, if you've had a shitty day or you do this, there's that part of me that's like, okay, fucking you're at work. Like it still seeps through every now and again, but there's that other part of me that's like, just because I'm in a shitty mood or because I'm whatever, doesn't mean that these people are here, especially these people are here to see a show. They're here to have fun.
Let them do that.
Let them, like, don't assume it's like, I'm not assuming that everyone's out to get you.
Oh,
because there's some people that have that mentality where it's like, if someone's rude to you or if someone has an immediate, you take it personally.
It's like,
and
no,
it
you
immediately
can't.
becomes this thing. And I've learned to not, because you can't and survive at that job.
It's too fast.
But also being at a place like last night, there were people that were just in real shitty moods. And I was like bummed because I was actually like in a good mood.
Yeah.
And then you go and you just hear people that every time their back is turned, they go, blah, 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 and they're immediately being super aggressive and rude to customers for no reason.
And then it sets the room off. We have to pick up those pieces too, even if they're not our customers.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of like, oh, I don't like this. And when you see it on someone else, you realize how unappealing and unattractive it is.
Sure.
And again, I still have moments, obviously.
We all do.
But that's something that I've, especially the last few years, have tried really hard to not. But especially because my last few years at Starbucks and at the counter were so bad because I let myself sink into that depressive
caring about it. And
this isn't what I want to do. I care too much. And then I care too much, but yet not at all.
Yeah. Oh, it's a weird limbo.
Yeah.
Of like, I care about this and I don't.
And I'm trying, and I really, really like the job that I have now. And I don't want to be there for like a super long time.
God help me.
But for right now, it's the first time, in the years that I've lived in LA that I've been able to have one job and be fine and not have to be working multiple jobs, because that 6 months, that was even before I started working at the comedy club. There was a time, I was still doing that for a couple of years before that, where it was just constant 2 or 3 jobs, not really sleeping. That's when I got like my hip tendonitis.
Oh, sure. And that's when you think you're like, oh, but I'm out here doing what I love. No, you're not. You're constantly working just to get by. And then what's the point?
And so I think the pros vastly outweigh the cons with this current job. And I'm trying, and just as a person, I'm trying hard to not, or like catch myself if I'm slipping into like that kind of depressive, aggressive, angry thing.
Which is easy to do there.
Which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
And just try to check myself.
Good job, you.
So it's made me more self-aware.
That's huge. Okay, so last question. What's one piece of advice that you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers of any kind?
Ooh, I would say it's the same thing. Don't assume they're out to get you. Don't assume anything is personal. Take a look around and be aware of the situation. Again, no one is perfect. There are some really shitty servers.
Oh yeah, we work with some assholes.
Yeah. And there's like everywhere you go, there's going to be some shitty servers. There's going to be something you see that's going to piss you off, and that's just how it happens. You're not going to interact with a fluffy bunny every time.
You just can't. It's not possible.
The majority of the time, you won't. But I think that's the big thing in general, is just interacting with people, is just having empathy or trying to have some sort of understanding.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. Sure. You don't want to get walked all over, but just being aware of like,
hey, it's not just about me.
It's not just about me. They're for sure working on other tables.
Yeah.
They probably, and just, I usually, if I'm out and something's happening, I usually give the server like a pass or two if I feel like they've forgotten something.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, it may be on their radar. I have no idea.
Yeah. Or what order it's in.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a laundry list of shit in your brain that you're trying to go through and check off.
Yep.
And sometimes if you don't go in that order, you forget everything.
100%. Or if someone interrupts you with a question, you're like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Like,
Yeah.
no. And
Yeah.
so I think just being aware of that, you're not the most important person in the room.
Oh, what a great way to end. You are not the most important person in the
Everything
room.
sucks. The world's on fire. No one cares.
She doesn't mean that. It's not that bad.
And that's how we're in.
Great. Thanks, Tara. I'm going to edit that out, you dick.
No.
Hey, how can people get in touch with you, Tara?
Oh, let's see. Well, my phone number is.
Oh, don't do that.
No, I don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
don't do that.
I guess Instagram. That's really the only thing I'm on.
You have to give us your handle.
No.
Okay, great. So just Instagram, guys. Just look up a
Just
Tara
vaguely
Robinson.
look up Instagram. What is my Instagram? I think it's almost Taradise. It's almost _Taradise.
Spelled Tara, though, like paradise with a T.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Almost Taradise.
Yeah.
So IG's it.
Yeah. No, I guess I technically have a Twitter, but I don't really use it.
Okay. And no website.
Not yet. I'm bad at that
no,
stuff.
Who cares? It's all changing. It's going to be wrong in a day anyway.
I
Who
know.
cares? And how can people see you in past episodes of things that have already aired? Hint, is there anything on Netflix?
Ooh.
Or Amazon?
Well, you can see me at the comedy club. No, please don't.
Yeah, please don't come visit us
Please
there.
don't.
Hopefully we'll never make a reference to which one it is, but you guys have probably figured it out.
Sorry.
Oh, Tara.
Wait, what was the question?
How do people where's the witch files?
Espresso is
How to-
out of
yeah,
my brain
Yeah,
now.
you got real tired.
It's gone.
What is how's a way that they can watch the witch files or NCIS or how do
So the Witch Files is on Netflix. I
Okay.
think it's still on Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Okay, great.
NCIS LA was the 9th season, so I don't know if it might be on Hulu or I think the CBS All
CBS
Access.
All Access,
I
yeah.
think that it might still be on there. And then my Criminal Minds episode was season 13, which is I don't think on Netflix yet, but is still on
not.
the CBS
All Access
All
app.
Access. And then my Station 19 episode is I think they're premiering it in January, and I'm
Amazing.
the second episode of that.
Second episode of that season?
Yeah.
Okay, so will it be season 2?
Season 3.
3.
Season 3, episode 2.
You can see her on that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to drop
I cry
checks
in
now.
everything.
Oh, God, she does that a lot. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here, Service from Hell. Leave a 5-star review on iTunes or tell your friends to listen or do both. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thank you, Tara, for being here.
Yeah. Don't be assholes.
Don't be assholes. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will we'll see you next week.
That's Kate farting.
No, wait, it's not. That didn't happen. Ugh.